Mark here at Discover Your Home. Thanks again for joining us tonight. I want to talk to you folks about painting your foyer or foyer, depending upon where you live and how you like to say it. But here in good old Chicagoland area, we're going to call it a foyer. So let's talk about some preparation. Hey, barely time to cook. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Feeling a little low energy. Let me pick it up here a little bit. Okay, so we're going to talk about how we're going to prep it, what equipment to use, paint selection, a couple color suggestions, and a couple tips at the end here. So buckle in. Let's get started. So here's what we're going to want to do. Hey, Lou, how you doing? Thank you for joining me tonight. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get the main area prepped here of our foyer. So we want to get our floors covered, our stairs covered. We're going to start with a couple special items here. What I recommend, generally, foyers have either hardwood floors or porcelain floors. Hey there, how are you? Just want to, there's a couple things we like to use there. So I'm going to start with, and this is a lot, really centers around safety. Start with the main area, the big part of the foyer. Use a tarp like this. This has got they got like rubber beads. They grip the floor. So when you get up on a ladder, not a lot of movement, not a lot of sliding around. If you don't feel that comfortable with it, you can also put down, there's some heavy duty like rosin papers or floor covering papers that are out there that work real well and grip real well to the feet of your ladder. So this is one that's out there you can pick up at your local paint store. Nice product. If you're going up the stairs, these also work really well. You just want to make sure you get one that's roughly around 36 inches wide, because that's generally how wide staircases are. If not, and you want something that works really well and it's going to take you a couple days to take care of this project, you can go down to the local big hardware stores and pick up a roll of plastic that will has a little tackiness to it, and you can roll up the carpet, and that works great. And you can basically walk it all the way up the stairs, and if you drip any paint or whatever, it's easier to work with. I actually find that to be a little bit nicer. Thanks for the likes out there, folks. I appreciate that. I like that a little bit better because drop cloths have a tendency to get bunched up, but with the carpet protection plastic, you just roll it up and it's nice and real tight to that surface, and you can walk up and down. It grips your feet. You find that a lot of realtors will use it when they're showcasing a home in its carpeted areas going from room to room. So you'll see that in model homes and also homes that are up for sale. Hey Yuma, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Okay, so after we get done, we figure out what we've got going on there. We want to make sure that we cover our handrails, cover those real well. Generally, you go by that real thin, I think 0.9 mil plastic. Definitely just drape over that. Anything that we can get covered, let's make sure we get covered. Mask off our trim work. We want to make sure that we get the walls prepped and sanded, because usually in foyers, especially here in the Chicagoland area, you usually have a large picture window over a front door on the one end, and then two generally large walls kind of parallel to that front door there. So, and it gives off a lot of light, and honestly, what ends up happening is that there's a lot of imperfection shown. So you want to make sure you get any of those things that need to be repaired, cracks, nail pops, get them sanded, get it primed, so you don't have what we call in the business flashing going on. So anywhere there's a drywall repair, say it's yay big, we want to make sure that gets primed, so when you go to paint over it, you don't have that spot that shows up. Okay? So now you're pretty much ready to paint. We've got all our tarps in place and everything. You know, we want to make sure it's a good, safe environment, and we want to make sure we do an excellent job here. So get everything covered. Then we move on to some of the specialty equipment. Hey, Lils Paul, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Okay, so let's start out with some ladders. Let's talk about, you're probably going to need an extension ladder. Usually a 20 to 24 foot extension ladder works good. If you don't like that, you might have to get a scaffold. I'll talk about that in a second. But with that extension ladder, you're going to need what we call a standoff. It's something you click onto the top and it kind of we call it a standoff. It's also called a stabilizer. And what it does is it pushes the ladder back, but it also stabilizes it on a wall. So it makes it much more comfortable to work off of that platform. So if you're comfortable working off a ladder, most foyer entries are two-story entries are usually about from floor to ceiling about anywhere from 18 to 24 feet high. So that's where you're going to be at. And depending upon how wide they are, you may need a scaffold. Okay, so if your foyer entry is a little wider, you might be surprised on what you're going to need to bring to the table for that. So also you might need what they call an articulated ladder. Some folks also call it by product name. It's called the Little Giant, where it opens up and then A-frames and one leg gets longer than the other. Trying to describe it to you the best way I can. So here's the thing with that. That's also just used on stairs. You've got to open it up to the point where it's level and work off that. There's a certain comfort level with that. If you're not comfortable, we may not want to have you guys do this project. But that's another piece of equipment you're going to use. There's some scaffolding. There's some planking that you can do depending upon how your entry is set up. It really gets back to how you're going to go ahead and do this. And finally, usually like what they call a Baker scaffold, a rolling scaffold, usually about 36 inches wide, about 6 to 8 feet long, goes up a couple feet. Somebody can push you around. That's if most of the time, I would say 95% of the time we have never used a scaffold unless your entry is wider than probably 10 feet. Because of the fact you can't reach things in the middle, like maybe a coffered ceiling or a tray ceiling or a chandelier where you got to cut it in around the sconce up top. So really, those are some of the equipments. Also, you're going to probably need an 8 to 16 foot extension pole. My recommendation here, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, buy quality. There's some great extension poles that work great, and there's some that are 8 to 16 once they're open, and they're noodles. They're useless. So you definitely want to spend a little bit more money. I think Wooster and Purdy make two really awesome paint poles on the marketplace for especially when you're painting larger surface areas like that. So also having an extra person there, a spotter. If you're not comfortable, have somebody spot you, on the ladder down below. Okay, safety first. Make sure you put yourself in a good situation because we don't want you to come rumbling, tumbling down. Okay, so make sure if you don't feel comfortable, have somebody else to spot you. Okay, if you don't feel that comfortable, don't get up there. Okay, let's keep it simple. All right, so that's it. As far as the equipment, we've talked preparation, paint selection. Let's keep it simple. Use a low to medium grade flat on the ceiling because you're not really washing it. You want to get a real dead flat so it doesn't show a lot of anything up there, especially if you've got a lot of light that, say from your chandelier that's kind of cascading up. You want more of a dead flat on your walls. I personally like to use a high-end matte finish like Benjamin Moore Regal Select Matte or Emerald by Sherwin-Williams. I like more of a matte finish because those walls are so large and there's a lot of imperfections. I've seen enough drywall in my lifetime that I don't care. There's never been one I'm like, wow, that was unbelievable. Usually you're going to find, because there are seams that are butting together in such large spans of wall, that I want less sheen, even though I want washability, and that's where I'm going to go with the Regal Select Matte or the Emerald Matte. Definitely want to do that. Now you can do the eggshell finish. There again, I personally like more of the matte look, but I do like a little bit more of a washability. I think the mattes wash up almost as nice as the eggshell. I'll concede the washability for Sheen in my preference. So that's up to you folks. As far as color selection, what I'm seeing now, what we're putting up, keeping it light and bright. I'm going to recommend a couple colors to you that I've put up that look really fantastic with painted trim work and stained trim work. The first one is very common. It's a Benjamin Moore color called Revere Pewter. Very popular. It's a soft gray. Goes with a lot. Works well with painted trim. There again, also stained trim. Benjamin Moore's Linen White, also very classic looking. Looks great with like white dove on the trim work. It's a soft, creamy color. Looks great. Also a color by Sherwin-Williams called Natural. And don't have the number on that, but that's a nice warm. It's kind of between a tan and a gray. It's close to Revere Pewter, but not quite as gray. Nice. Looks soft, works well with a lot of different colors. Okay, so those are a few color recommendations. I would say, unless you really want to go to dark colors, most of our customers that we're seeing out there are staying on the lighter and brighter side. Okay, couple tips. Let me scroll up here. While you're up there, couple things. That picture window, I would highly recommend either putting a coat of stain and varnish, cleaning it up, repainting it, cleaning that window, cleaning the chandelier or the fan that's in the entryway, and while you're up there, get some new bulbs in there, okay? Because you're probably not going to have a ladder to do it again, or if you're paying a professional to do it, if they're up there, there's things that you're going to want to get taken care of. Thanks for the love out there. Appreciate that. So if you're going to be going through this process of doing all these things, make sure you're using a good quality roller, good quality brush, good quality materials. And while you're up there, you got the ladders out. Let's make sure we're taking care of all those little things that you just over time you just kind of forget about and walk past. Because you really don't see them necessarily right in front of your face. So hey, I just want to thank you again for joining us. I am Mark at Discover Your Home, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thanks again.